Earlier this summer, we got our hands on the Egyptian God decks that included new cards for the archetype. We got to open both the Slifer and the Obelisk deck, and we also made a $30 budget deck profile for each of them. Due to its popularity and request, the Yu-Gi-Oh community and fanbase has always been trying to look for various ways to make the Egyptian God decks more playable and consistent. We also got the legendary Duelist set Rage of Ra, which came out all the way from last year, and we'll finally be able to combine all the best cards from these sets along with some meta staples to make my very own Egyptian God deck profile for you all today. We also made a Arcana Knight God deck on the channel that features a totally different playstyle along with the release from Kane's Court set. So be sure to check that video out as well. If this is your very first time watching, welcome to the AVAULT channel, and I would like to kindly ask you that are watching right now to subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh deck profiles. Also be sure to give this video a like as we greatly appreciate the support. For today's deck profile, we'll be using the new official Konami Egyptian God accessories that recently came out, including for the sleeves and the playmat, which will perfectly fit our deck and theme. Starting off, we have two Slifer the Sky Dragon. Now, I personally feel like this is like the strongest one. Great to start first as well, especially it does gain 1,000 attack for each card in your hand, which is quite decent. You know, sometimes you can rack up into like a whole large bunch of attack for Slifer and then swing in for massive damage, which is great. But the main part of this effect, of this card's effect, is the minusing 2,000 attack floodgate, which is really good. Great for going off first to stop all your opponent's summonings. Essentially, there's rarely any monsters that can be like special summoning itself or normal summoning that has 2,000 or more straight off the bat, which really makes it very difficult for your opponents to deal with overall. This is why I personally love this card the most, and I think 2 of is a good amount. Next, we do play one Obelisk the Tormentor. We didn't include this deck in the Arcana God decks. If you guys haven't checked it out, be sure to check it out as well, because it didn't synergize as well. But in this deck, it works. Mainly, Obelisk is just a straight 4,000 beater body on the board with 4,000 defense, which is excellent because very powerful monster right there. Easy to summon from this deck, and there's nothing to worry about when you're there. You feel massive in terms of power. Its secondary effect of tributing 2 monsters to destroy all your opponent's monsters is quite decent as well. We do use it from time to time, but mainly it's because of its strong body power right there. Next, for the Winged Dragon of Ra, we do play one right here along with 2 sphere modes. Now, the main goal of this is not really trying to bring out the Winged Dragon of Ra by itself. You want to use sphere mode. Sphere mode is excellent in terms of just wiping your opponent's board. You tribute 3 of their monsters and you give them sphere mode, and then afterwards you get your sphere mode back to you, tributing it, and then you can bring the Winged Dragon of Ra directly from your hand or deck, so which is really good. The only downside is it can't come back from the graveyard, so you want to make sure it's in your hand or deck at all times when you use the sphere mode. This makes it very good for going second. The Winged Dragon of Sphere mode effect, bringing out the Winged Dragon of Ra, does give it 4,000 attack and defense, which is a very similar concept to having Obelisk on the board, essentially, which is really good. And then we can basically use the second effect of Winged Dragon of Ra to basically, pay 1,000 life points to start destroying monsters on our opponent's board as well, which is really handy in some situations as well. Now moving into our non-Egyptian God boss monsters, but still Egyptian God related cards, we play 3 Guardian Slimes right here. You can basically special summon this card from your hand whenever you basically take battle damage, essentially. Now, it has a very good quick effect where during damage calculation, it can basically become a body protector from any monsters because it gains defense equal to the opponent's monster's attack during the damage calculation only. Now, if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you can add 1 spell or trap directly from your deck to your hand that specifically lists the Winged Dragon of Ra in its text, which would usually be Ancient Chant or Millennium Revelation, which is really good, and then to set up your plays. Not only that, you can basically instantly tribute this card to help you bring out Egyptian God Slime, and that basically just really excels your plays, and I definitely highly recommend playing 3 of this card in this deck and no less. Next, we also play 3 Reactor Slimes right here. Basically a token generator, essentially bringing out 2 tokens, and then you contribute the 2 tokens, including itself, to help bring out your God cards. That's really the whole purpose of this deck. There is a quick effect as well that you contribute this card to help you set Metal Reflect Slime, the trap card, directly from your deck to the field. Also, the really nice thing is that you can actually activate that same Metal Reflect Slime the same turn. And once you do, you can basically tribute that Metal Reflect slime to once again bring out Egyptian God slime, which is really, really amazing. And once again, I play 3 of these and no less for sure. Now moving on to our other supporting new cards from the Egyptian God decks, we play 3 of the Tellus the Little Angel right here. Now this card is really great because once again it generates tokens for you, and it can do it like 2 times, because if this card is sent from the monster zone to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Tellus Wing token. While you control another Tellus Wing token, you can banish this card from your graveyard and 1 spell from your hand to special summon 2 tokens. Also, there is one downside where you cannot special summon monster for the rest of the turns except from your hand. So really, again, just to create more tokens so that you can tribute them to summon your god cards, which is really, really good. And then we have 2 Angel 01s right here, which is also like a very similar idea to Tellus, but you know, you can review basically a god monster from your hand, essentially a level 7 higher monster, and then you can special summon this card right away. So while you control this special summon card, you can tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster in attack position during your main phase, in addition to your normal summon or set, which is really great because it's like a built-in double summon and also a extra special summon off via itself. So usually, of course, with the effects, you will basically review an Egyptian god card from your hand, special summon this, and then make sure you generate enough tribute fodders to then tribute them to bring out your Egyptian god right afterwards, since you are allowed an extra normal summon. So that basically wraps up for all our main monsters. Now we're going to move into our hand traps, where we of course do play the triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, which is basically the standard hand trap of this format of the current meta game, which is always definitely needed and very versatile. Next, I'd like to play 2 Effect Veilers, which is also really handy because basically you can negate any monster effects on the board, which is really good, and you can also utilize it for some Synchro Summon plays if needed, or even for Link Summon at times. Now moving to our spells, we of course play the triple copies of Soul Crossing right here. Soul Crossing is an amazing ultra rare card that came out from the Egyptian God decks. Basically, during the main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 Divine Beast monster. And when you do, you contribute monsters your opponent controls. Now, that basically means that you contribute all your opponent's monsters to summon your God cards, or you contribute 2 of your opponent's monsters, tribute 1 of your own, so you can kind of mix and match because of the brackets of the S in the monsters in this sentence. Now keep in mind, the really other cool thing about this card is it's a quick play spell, meaning you can use it as like a trap card, and it doesn't say during your main phase, it's during the main phase. So you can play this card in your opponent's turn and tribute summon at the same time during their turn. So that's a really, really powerful card. Really great for going first overall, because you can just simply set this card, pass your turn, and see what your opponent does and sort of react to it with your Soul Crossing. Next, we do play 3 Ancient Chants right here. This basically helps you search for the Winged Dragon of Ra directly from your deck or graveyard and add it back to your hand. And you're also allowed to tribute summon 1 monster during your main phase this turn, in addition to your normal summon or set. The second part to this card effect is that you can banish this card from your graveyard, and if you tribute summon the Winged Dragon of Ra this turn, the original attack and defense becomes a combined original attack and defense of all the monsters tributed for its summon, just like the anime effect, so you can actually rack up very high attacking power and defense for your Winged Dragon of Ra, which is really, really cool. And then keep in mind that you can only activate 1 Ancient Chant per turn. Next, we do play 1 of the Millennium Revelation. You can basically send 1 Divine Beast monster from your hand to the graveyard to add 1 Monster Reborn from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is really good. You can also send this face-up card to the graveyard this turn, allowing you to special summon the Winged Dragon of Ra specifically from your graveyard with Monster Reborn, ignoring its summoning conditions. However, during the end phase that this turn effect was activated, you must send the Winged Dragon of Ra you control that was special summoned with Monster Reborn back to the graveyard. And you can only use each effect of Millennium Revelation once per turn. Now this card is left as a one-off because it does let you make some really interesting plays with the Monster Reborn. You can get your Monster Reborn over and over again because it is a continuous spell, which is really nice to have as well. Now moving to our specific attacking move Egyptian God spells, we have Thunder Force Attack, which is Slifer's signature move. This is a quick play spell, which is really good because once again, you can kind of play it as a trap. This card's activation cannot be negated, which is really cool. If you control a monster with original name as Slifer the Sky Dragon, destroy as many face-up monsters your opponent controls as possible. Then if you activate this card during your main phase, you can apply the following effect. you get to draw cards equal to the number of monsters destroyed and sent to the graveyard via this effect. Now, this works very nicely because now you get to board wipe your opponent, but not only that, you get to rack up more cards from your deck to your hand by drawing them and increasing your Slifer's attack all at the same time, which is really cool. However, there is one downside where you can only attack with one monster the turn you activate this card, and you can only activate one Thunder Force attack per turn as well. Now for the next one, we have Obelisk's signature move, which is Fist of Fate. Another quick play spell, which is very versatile. Once again, this spell card cannot be negated. And if you control a monster whose original name is Obelisk, negate the effects of one monster your opponent controls. Also, if you do, you basically destroy it. And if you do that, for the rest of the turn, the effect of that monsters are negated as well as when they're being activated on the field with the same name, meaning that multiple copies will be essentially stopped by this card. If this card is activated during your main phase, you can apply and gain this specific effect. Destroy all spells and traps your opponent controls. However, you can only activate one Fist of Fate per turn. So that sums up for all our Egyptian god related spell cards. Now let's move into some of the more generic spell cards we like to play. So for sort of like a draw power or search engine, I like to play 3 card advances. This card basically lets you look at the top 5 cards of your decks and then rearrange them in any order so you can set up your plays ahead of time. And the really neat thing is that it allows you to tribute summon in addition to your normal summoner set for the turn as well. Now this card combos very well with this other spell card I'm about to introduce to you guys, which is called the True Name. The True Name allows you to declare one card name and excavate the top card of your deck. And if it's a declared card, you basically add it to your hand. Then you can add to your hand or special summon one Divine Beast monster directly from your deck. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. You can only activate one True Name per turn. Now, why this works very well is for obvious reasons is because Card Advance lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order, and then once you follow up with the True Name afterwards, you know for sure exactly which card it is, so you're going to be calling it right all the time. The only reason why I want to play 2 is because you want to keep it consistent and making sure that you're playing this card when you know for sure what the top card is via Card Advance. You don't really want to play this card by gambling it all unless you really have to. So that's why these 2 spell cards are so crucial when they put together, and they work best when you play them one after another. And then now moving to our other staple spells, we do of course have one Monster Reborn. We can search it with Millennium Revelation, allows us to basically revive any monster we wish we'd like to have, which is really good. And then we also have one Call by the Grave, just to stop our opponent from letting us combo and do our plays, which is still a really good card. Now moving to our traps, we play one of the new continuous trap card, which is Ultimate Divine Beast. Now this card is just absolutely insane because when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can discard one spell or trap, then target one Divine Beast monster in your graveyard and special summon it defense. Then change the attack target to it during the end phase. Now it's usually good that you want to bring out Obelisk with this because it has a flat out 4000 defense, which is really good, and your opponent has to take damage for that. Not many, like I mentioned before, not many monsters can run over it. And during the end phase, if you do control a Divine Beast monster, which we usually do because of Ultimate Divine Beast, you can destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls that activated their effects on the field this turn. You can only use each effect of Ultimate Divine Beast once per turn. Now that's really awesome, really good, really powerful card, and it makes it very troublesome for your opponent to overcome with. Now keep in mind, all our god cards do end up going back to the graveyard during the end phase if they're special summoned by any via effects. So that's the sort of one downside, but that's totally okay because that means we can do this turn over turn after again and again, making it very annoying for our opponent to deal with overall. Last but not least, we do have one Metal Reflex Slime. This card is basically combos with Reactor Slime, which allows us to basically activate it very quickly. Really great card still by itself because first of all, it can be used to tribute summon for the Egyptian God Slime directly, or, you know, in general, it still has 3000 defense, which is very difficult for most monsters to overcome, and then you can stop your opponents like battle phase or their plays for the turn simply because of that, protecting yourself and buying yourself another turn. That basically rounds up for our 40 card main deck, and now let's get into our extra deck. Now for our extra deck, we do play the 3 copies of Egyptian God Slime right here, the new addition from Rage of Ra from last year, but a really powerful card because this card must be either first fusion summoned or special summoned from your extra deck by simply tributing a level 10 aqua monster with 0 attack. Now there's a lot of targets for this because one of will be Metal Reflect Slime, and we can basically, you know, recur that over and over again with Reactor Slime, or the other one, like I mentioned right in the beginning, is Guardian Slime. Guardian Slime also acts as that because that card has 0 attack and is also a level 10 Aqua monster. This card can be basically be treated as one tribute for all 3 tributes of a summon of a monster. Basically what that means is that you can just tribute this card alone to bring out an Egyptian god because it requires 3, which is really powerful. Straight off the bat, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. And the other really cool thing is that this basically protects all your monsters because your opponents cannot target any of your other monsters with attacks or with card effects except for Egyptian God Slime. This basically protects your board when it's on the field, which is really cool and really powerful once again. Again, with 3000 attack and 3000 defense, you know, still a very strong monster and really good. That's it for our fusion monsters, and then now I have one synchro monster to introduce, which is basically Formless Synchron. Since we do play Effect Veiler, which is a level 1 tuner monster, as well as playing a lot of like token generating cards that are level 1, we can basically just synchro them off to special summon Formless Synchron just for a free draw, which is really nice to have. Next, for our Xyz monsters, I like to play one Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max because it requires 2 level 10 monsters, and then you can basically detach 1 material to inflict 2000 damage to your opponent. Now all our Egyptian God boss monsters are level 10, so we can easily overlay all of them together to put them together for this powerful monster right here. And if we want to extend that play even further, we can basically then play the Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Leap. With Juggernaut Leap's effect, we can basically just overlay right on top of Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max, and then basically go bam on our opponent with multiple attacks, and it still has 4000 attack and defense itself, which is really nice. Next we have Mirage, which is sort of kind of like a floater card. We basically link summon this with one normal summon monster with 1000 or less attack, and whenever a normal summon monster we control is destroyed by battle while this card is in the graveyard, we can special summon this card back, which this card basically offers great protection because it has a quick effect, and by tributing this card we can target one monster we control and it cannot be destroyed by our opponent's card effects this turn. And when a normal summon monster, which would usually be our god cards essentially, is controlled and destroyed by battle while this card is in the graveyard, we can special summon this card back, which is really nice. And then we can use it over and over again to basically protect our Egyptian gods. Next we have one Link Rebo, very similar effect to Salamangreat Mirage as well, where we can start protecting our monsters from being destroyed by battle. We contribute this card and change the opponent's monster attack to 0 during battle and until the end of this turn. If this card is in our graveyard, quick effect, we contribute 1 level 1 monster, special summon this card back. Once again, just to protect our Egyptian gods. Especially like Slifer in the early stages, we don't have that many cards in our hand. It has lower attack, and Link Rebo can be really helpful. And simply because we generate so many level 1 tokens, it's so easy to keep bringing these guys back over and over. Now moving on to our other Link monsters, we do play one IP Mascarina, which is always really great for disrupting plays when we need to do, especially linking towards with our Nightmare Unicorn, Nightmare Phoenix, and Nightmare Cerberus package. You know, we can play these during our opponent's turn using IP Mascarina's effect, and then, you know, have multiple different disruptions to sort of play against them. We usually don't really need to access these Link monsters, I have to say, but it's always nice to have. Then we do have one Yugioh, the Skull Dread, which is really good in providing us more versatility in terms of, but it's still really nice to have when we do really need it, since it lets us special summon monsters from our hand. It also gives us draw, so we can dig deeper into our deck and sort of find out other resources that we need to access into. And then last but not least, we do have one Access Code Talker, usually for game finishers and game winning moves, and that's about it. You guys know what this card does. To conclude, this deck can do a bunch of crazy things to overwhelm your opponent. Card after card with various effects, it's just really cool. The feeling of this deck makes you feel like that you're reliving the epic anime moments when playing the Egyptian gods, which is really fun. What do you guys think about this deck? If you guys have any comments or suggestions, be sure to share it with everyone down below. That rounds up for my very own Egyptian god deck profile for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for more Yu-Gi-Oh deck profiles. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. And this is AVAULT, signing out.